Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to do a short video on a couple of the things that I have in my shop that I can't live without, and I thought I would share them with you because they come in handy over and over and over. I just recently did something on my Instagram stories where I shared one of the things, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to share a few more. So we're going to go through a couple of these things that I have found over the years that come so in handy, and I love having them in my shop. They're inexpensive, they're easy to find, so I'm going to share them with you here, and I will link everything down below so that you guys can go ahead and access that easily. So first off, when you're working with furniture, one of the things before I purchase anything, one of the things I check are drawers. Do the drawers slide well? Is there any issues? First of all, I don't buy anything if the drawers are broken or need repair. Been there, done that, and ended up giving that piece away for free after my husband just about wanted to throw it out on the curb. So that is one thing that I do not do, is buy anything with broken drawer rails or anything like that. However, sometimes older pieces can have sticky drawers. So what do you do about that? There's two things you can do. You can sand the rails down a little bit, because sometimes over the years they just get a little rough. And there's two tricks that you can do to make them slide smoother. This is something I found a while back and I absolutely love it. Only need to use it when the drawers aren't sliding well, and after you use it, they slide perfectly. But it is this here. It is made by Elmer's. It's called Glide All. You spray it right onto your, I spray it underneath the drawer slide on the drawer and then on the track itself, and roll that back and forth a few times and it slides so much nicer. Now, if you don't, I don't know the price point for this, I will list that down below. But if you don't have time, you're in a pinch, you need something right away, there's another little tip that I can share with you that most of us have around our house, and that is a candle. So you can tell I've used this over and over because this is shaped now like a drawer slide, but you can literally go back and forth rubbing that candle wax over, again, both the slide underneath the drawer itself and then also the track itself in the piece of furniture. This works like a charm. It will leave behind a little wax residue, so you might need to vacuum that up a little bit, but this works perfectly. Some people use soap. I tend to like the candle because it's a little bit harder and it's a little less messy, but this works in a pinch, I'm telling you guys. So keep a little candle around your shop because it will come in handy. Now, one of the things that I get asked about a lot when I take pictures of what I'm working on is what is on top of that piece of furniture. And typically it's this, it's the 3M painter's plastic. And what I do when I do a stain and paint project, I have to cover, usually I'll stain first, and so I have to cover that obviously, because if I'm spraying, and even if I'm not spraying, if I'm brushing, believe me, you can get a little aggressive sometimes and not realize it, and have a little, flick of the brush, and there it goes on your nicely stained piece. So I always cover when I'm working on, a piece of furniture that has different things going on. Paint and stain, maybe a special blended top. I want to cover that up. This stuff is awesome. I get mine at Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at any hardware store. This is actually a big roll. They make one about half the size, but this stuff is awesome. It works perfectly. Then when you're done, you take it off. No problems. No paint on your stain, no stain on your paint, whatever it is you're working on. So the 3M painter's plastic has just come such in handy for me. So I love that. The other thing this is what I featured in my stories the other day. I cover my furniture with sheets, and then on top of sheets, I go ahead and use blankets from Harbor Freight. They're reasonably inexpensive, so I get a bunch of them there. And that is how I keep my pieces that are finished, waiting for pickup, nice, clean, debris-free. Anything that might be happening in my shop is not going to happen on those pieces because they are wrapped tight. Now, what I do is I put the sheet on, and then I clothespin it, fold it, clothespin it, and then I throw my blanket on top, and I go ahead and I clip it with one of these guys. These are from the dollar store. These are from Harbor Freight. Super inexpensive way. Wrap up your furniture and clip them. and then you will have, I wrap them like a present basically, but then there's no chance that anything is gonna happen to that nicely finished piece of furniture that you put so much time into while it's waiting to be picked up or moved around. So, and I have to move around furniture all the time in my shop because I get really full sometimes, and so I have to be creative about my space. So having my things covered, not worrying about if they're gonna get kicked or dinged or something dropped on them is perfect. So these super, super handy. And then one of the things, this is gonna be so simple, you're gonna laugh, but cardboard pieces. Now, what in the world do I use this for? Well, it's quite simple. So you can do two things. Let's say you're painting a dresser, right? And you've got the top of the drawer and the sides of the drawer. You can do two things. You can take your painter's plastic and tape the drawer itself so that you don't get anything on it. Or I tend to sometimes, I do that sometimes, but sometimes, quite honestly, I'm not in the mood for all that prep. So I use my cardboard pieces whenever I get boxes in, which is not often because I don't ever shop online. Yeah, that would be a different story if you asked anybody who lives in my household because it's like a daily occurrence here. However, back to the cardboard. So anyway, the cardboard I use to place literally inside of the drawer, and it protects that drawer front. And I just go ahead and swipe my line, or like I said, I do it on the sides of the drawer. As a matter of fact, let me grab a drawer because sometimes we're more visual and we need to see what is exactly she talking about. So hold on. All right, I'm back with a drawer. So this will be a little more helpful for you to understand what it exactly I'm talking about, how I use it. So when you do the painting the drawer front, obviously you don't want to get any paint on this beautiful wood. I don't want to get any paint on this dovetail joint. So I take, this is a rather large piece of cardboard, but I take my cardboard and voila, I go ahead and I just paint right down that line. Same thing for, I even do it underneath, even though of course, who cares about the underneath? Well, I know, but I like to keep it. But see how nice and easy that is? So I put my large piece of cardboard right up against there and I just swipe my line of paint right down that line and done. So it works really, really good. So anytime you get cardboard in, save it. I have a whole stack. I cut it up all nice and neat like this. So I've got nice clean edges and I use it that way. So that is really cool. Now, the other thing that I like to use so that I don't make a complete disaster of my workspace, I buy paint by the gallons now. I still do with some paint lines that, you know, don't offer it, but I do the smaller quarts and things, and you can get these in the smaller sizes, but I use these guys. These come so in handy, right? Because you're pouring, especially with a gallon, you're pouring out a gallon into, you know, maybe a bowl, maybe you're pouring it into your sprayer cup, whatever it is you're pouring it into. And let me tell you, it's sometimes not so easy. So I use these, super inexpensive. I got these at Home Depot. I got a bunch of them so that I can just swap them out. You can rinse them out and reuse them, obviously, time after time. So these are great. They have a pop top. So all day long, if I'm working on a project, I leave this on my paint can in case I need to refill. And I just pop my top and it stays nice and fresh. When I'm done for the day, pop it off, wash it, throw the lid back on, good to go. The other thing is it keeps your lids super nice and clean so that when you're storing them, you don't have to pry them off when you use that same paint 3 months later. So these are great. One of the things that I recently came across with this whole coronavirus thing, because that totally shifted the way we shopped, right? Couldn't get supplies the same way. Stores were closed that were normally carrying them. So we had to be resourceful and look for other things. Well, at the time I had run out of primer. I had a client piece that I had to get done and I didn't know what I was gonna do. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna try this and see what happens. And I wanna tell you, I'm pleasantly surprised by this product. I do not use it all the time, but I will use it again, and it is very easy to use, and it's a great product. And if you don't have a sprayer, I personally like to spray my primer. Primer is kind of one of those products that can be really challenging to work with from time to time, and you don't want any brush strokes or any issues with it, so spraying it is optimal. But I couldn't get my normal General Finishes primer at the time that I needed it, and so I went to Home Depot and I got this. And you're thinking, spray paint? It is spray paint, technically. It is spray paint. It is a spray primer, but I have to tell you, this saved the day. It is awesome. It was easy to work with. Now it does really smell, I'm gonna tell you. So of course I wear my respirator when I use this. I would definitely recommend it. Do not do it indoors. It definitely has a stink to it. So, but it worked fabulously. It covered wonderfully for the bleed through. I was painting a mahogany piece, a very light color, so there was no chance that I was not going to prime. I could not skip that step. So I actually got one can, covered the entire dresser. It sanded down really nice. It was easy to work with other than the smell. I would absolutely recommend this. If you're looking for a primer, not wanting to brush it on, and you do not have an actual sprayer of sorts, this is actually a really good product. Now there are different ones. Bin makes one. This was what I could get at the time, so I took a chance on it. I have used since then the Bin one. They come in white, light gray. This one's a kind of a flat, darker gray, which is good for dark colors. So there you go. Just wanted to share that product with you, that it was a success, and I would recommend using it. So there's that. I featured this once in one of my other videos, but this is my mister, and I absolutely love this thing. It is actually like a hairstylist mister that they use, and this comes so in handy for the fact that you're brushing a piece and it's drying too fast or setting up too fast, so you need to add a little bit of water. This is awesome because it's not going to put big droplets in your piece. It's not going to make your paint look funny, and you can use it directly on the piece or on your brush. So these are great. Amazon, super inexpensive. And let's see. The other thing, this is another dollar store find. So this is how I store my Klingon brushes. This is how they recommend storing them. They're a self-cleaning brush, so at the end of the day, you clean it out, and then you go ahead and store it in water, upside down like this. And what I have this on is, it's resting on a chip clip. So no, is it made for this? Absolutely not. Is it kind of make it look a little funny? Yes, it does. But you know what? It works, because in this case, when you want to self-clean them, I'm dipping the whole entire brush in there, almost up to the silver line. But if I'm not using this, then typically what I do is just keep the tips in the water. So this allows you to move this around. Super inexpensive, great way to store your brushes. They will not fan out that way. If you see even my brushes in the background there, everything's hanging upside down. There's a reason for that. If you store brushes on the right side up, what happens over time naturally, especially when they're wet as they're drying, that brush will fan out. I go over that in my brush video. If you have any other questions, you can always check that out. But these are lifesavers, dollar store. So there's that. The other thing that I use these when I send client pieces home, but you can use them to store little bits of extra paint, and they're great because they have a pop top and they have a suction, so they do stay nice and tight, airtight. But I get these little jars, and I get them in big quantity. I think I order like 30 at a time. Very, very inexpensive, but basically I just put like, this is what I use for my touch-up paint. But again, let's say you want to keep touch-up paint for yourself. Maybe you don't do this to sell, or you have clientele, but it doesn't matter. Maybe you just do this and you want to keep extra paint on hand. These little guys are great. Can't live without them. And like I said, they do have a seal on them, so it does keep the paint from drying out, which is great. And then one of the last things I want to talk about are these guys. Now, I keep a lot of paint swatches on hand because I do a lot of custom work. So I need to be able to show my clients the different colors that I have in stock so that they can choose, right? But maybe you just want to create for yourself all of the colors that you keep in your workshop. Even if it's, like I said, you don't have, you don't do this to buy and sell, or you don't have clientele, but you want to keep your own colors organized. What I do is I buy these little sticks. You can get these at any craft store, or I ordered mine off Amazon, again, because I get them in bulk. Can you tell there's a pattern there? I like Amazon. God, what would I do without them? Anyway, they're these. And then all I do is I have a little labeler. Let me show you guys. I have a little labeler, so I just label my little, the names of each one. And then I hang them on this little handy ring. that I got also on Amazon. So very inexpensive way to keep your colors organized. You don't have to label them. Before I got my labeler, I just used to write the colors down. But this thing pops open really easy. You can slide one out to show people. And all I did to get them on there was I just drilled little holes in the ends of the sticks. Super, super easy. But it's a nice way to stay organized. If you have several paint colors on hand, I do it with my stains as well. So that's just a nice little thing to have. And then lastly, I did want to talk about straining your paint. And some people say, well, do I need to do that? Or your top coat? So I don't typically strain my paint, but I do my top coat all the time. Now I spray my top coat 99% of the time. I spray my top coat. It's a very unique situation now where I apply it by hand, and that has been a lifesaver for me because for years, if any of you have been doing this for a while, you know top coating can be a struggle. Finding the right one, finding the right applicator, you know, not getting streaks, not getting cloudiness, not getting things flying in it. It can be a nightmare. So I have gone to spraying ultimately all of my top coats, which I absolutely wouldn't do it any other way now. And when I say spraying, I am using my Fuji Semi-Pro turbine sprayer. So I'm not using a spray can, if you will. I'm not using a spray can top coat. I'm using my top coat of choice is General Finishes High Performance Top Coat. It's a water-based top coat. I just love it. It never disappoints. And I feel very comfortable running a water-based top coat through my sprayer. So that's my choice of what I like to use. But when I use it, I always strain it first, because things can get in there that between the time that you're pouring it from the can to your cup, and even like I said, even if you're doing this by hand, you can still use these. I would just recommend it. They work excellently. I get the big pack on Amazon, and like I said, you don't necessarily have to do this with your paint. I've never found any issues with having to do it with my paint, but you can. If you need to, you can. And one of the things that you might want to do it with the paint would be, one of the reasons would be, let's say you have a really old can. You know how sometimes they can get kind of rusty at the top? Well, those flakes of rust or debris or whatever that kind of collects around there, even the old paint that kind of dries if you don't wipe it off, that can get right into what you're doing. And then you're painting and all of a sudden you're thinking, what is that in there? Well, it was probably something from the rim of the can. So you can use these to strain your paint. But these are things that I can't live without in my shop and I absolutely love. All right, you guys, so that is it. I hope that video was helpful for you guys today. I just wanted to share a couple of my favorite inexpensive items that I keep around my shop that are must-haves that I have found over the years, come so in handy that now I'm at a point where it's like I can't live without them. I have to constantly keep them in stock. But there's nothing better than sharing information, sharing things you find, and I love doing that with you guys. So thank you for watching today. Thank you for being subscribers. Keep subscribing so you can get all of my videos, and I will catch you guys on the next one. If you have any positive comments or questions, make sure you leave them down below, and I will link everything I talked about today. Thank you.